Hi sewing friends, welcome to my sewing room. My name is Beth, and if you're new, welcome. The quilt behind me is a new to me quilt. I found it in the thrift store. It's not very wide. The quilter appliqued little boys and girls on here. It even came with a pillow. So I'm going to share a little bit about this quilt today. Let's get started. Here's the quilt up close with all these appliqued boys and girls. That black thread really makes the boys and girls look kind of dark. I thought it'd be interesting to try to just soften that up a little bit. This quilt is pretty long and skinny, 53 by 33, kind of an unusual size. And I thought I would try to figure out how the quilter made the block and maybe try to soften those boys and girls up just a little bit. So I used the same shapes for the overalls and the dress, and I used some steam seam for my applique, and right now I'm cutting the little shoes for the boy and the girl. This is a real easy way to applique if you don't want to have to turn under your raw edges. You just press the steam seam onto the back of the fabric, and then you take the backing piece off and then press the shapes on your fabric, and then all you need to do is sew it down. And here I've used a blanket stitch, and I'll do the same thing around those black shoes. I added a very simple face to the boy and girl. I thought the vintage quilt, the eyes were just too dark, and so I just made two little lines for the eyes, and here I'm drawing on the girl's braids. The dress has been pressed on using the steam seam, and now I'll go around just like I did on the little boy, and I'll add a blanket stitch all the way around the dress. My stitches are farther apart than the original quilter did, and I think that'll be fine. I don't know, I doubt if the original quilt here used something like steam seam. I think the edges were probably turned under, and she went around in her blanket stitches very close together, and mine will be farther apart. The hair was just a little bit tricky with this little girl, and actually it was a little bit tricky with the boy too. I added more stitches, and it seemed as if I added more stitches it looked a little better. So I added just some red little stitches around the outside of that circle, and then I added some bangs on her forehead, and to me that softened her face up just a little bit. Here's the original, and you can kind of compare to what I'm doing here. Also, on the face and the arms, I used a running stitch rather than that blanket stitch. I thought it just gave it a little bit of a softer appearance, and I like the way this turned out with this running stitch. Now my little boy and girl are complete, and I thought it'd be fun to just kind of compare the two, the older version and my version today. Just a little different. It's amazing what you can do with just a little bit of fabric and some thread. I had a lot of fun exploring this idea using this vintage quilt as my inspiration. Here's another interesting thing with this quilt. This quilter used a very old-fashioned binding method. I have a video on how to do that. I'll leave a link below. And here's that old quilt that got us going on this project today. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.